we were out a small town outside of Chicago in a real cemetery, which was insanely creepy at 4 in the morning, running through, screaming in a field.
Nerd Reactor, roll out.
Brock, how's it going?
Uh, I'm great. I'm sort of overwhelmed by the response from the fans of the show and the fans of
Yeah.
Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It's been a really exciting couple weeks.
It's yeah, the show is like it's been number one on Netflix, the monster Ed Gein story, and then just you being
Incredible.
part of that. That's going to be like osmosis of like, oh, like who's this? Who's going to be these characters? Like who plays Norman Bates? Who's Leatherface? Because you're
Yeah,
featuring in that.
absolutely. Yeah, no, it was really exciting. And I think Joey who plays Norman Bates and Anthony Perkins, and Golden Garnick, who plays Buffalo Bill in the Silence of the Lamb homage. We're kind of in a unique group because while the show was being promoted, they really very much wanted to keep the actual nods to the films a secret, and so we were all really excited. But it also does feel like now that it's out, there is just this little extra attention to the fans of these films: Psycho, Silence of the Lambs, Texas Chainsaw. Like there was so much love and care put into recreating those moments for the fans. Obviously, the entire show has a lot of commentary outside of the horror and the true crime stuff about mental health, and the horrible things that can happen right next door. And but I feel really fortunate because we're living in an era where Texas Chainsaw, especially, is there's rumors of a feature reboot, and it was really special to be able to not just play the role of Leatherface, but play the role of Gunnar Hansen, who was the first Leatherface. Like the slashers would not exist without his seminal work and everything that he did. So that was really my goal. My goal was to drive, for my part, my goal was to drive people back to enjoy the original film and that original performance. So.
Oh yeah, and I guess since it's already out, we can talk about the ending, right? So spoiler alert for those watching, but yeah, we have all those characters at the end with you with the chainsaw, and
Absolutely.
there is a part where
We're in this outfit.
yes, yes, and there is a part where we get to see your face, like in episode 4, or is it the end of episode 3?
Yeah, good memory. Yeah.
Yeah.
The end of episode 3, they set up the fact that we're going to transition because the beginning of the show is really tied into Ed Gein and his inspiration for and the trauma he experienced that sort of led to this domino effect. And then in real time, then it's the Psycho stuff, and Hitchcock and the Block, the writer, sort of discovering Ed Gein's story and framing that. And then we're the second film that's featured that was inspired by some of the crimes of Ed Gein and the stories of Ed Gein. Yeah, it was really cool. There was no guarantee that shot was going to make it, and I wasn't even sure that my face would be seen. So it's really cool to be connected to that. But yeah, and we had incredible actors that day. Richard Elper, who plays the cook, was awesome. He stood in for Jim Cito. There was just so much. The Telsey office was who handled the casting, and they had a tall order, and they delivered. They found actors that fit the parts. They found actors that knew the movies. They found actors that could bring these parts back to life. So really, I feel very fortunate to be in the mix, but that they deserve major kudos because that was a tall order.
So what was that like on the set with all the 3 iconic villains? I would say just because the camera pans like through the different characters.
Right, in the cemetery.
Yeah, at the cemetery. So I don't know if you were like just waiting for like, all right, here's my part with the chainsaw.
Yeah. So we did it a couple different ways. Without giving all the movie magic away, we were all there together. And so we had our Tony Perkins, we had our Buffalo Bill, and then obviously the last little sprint there, that was all me. It was an stunt double. We were really running in the dark in the mask with the chainsaw. Max Winkler, who directed that episode, was sitting in the bed of a truck holding it, and it was fun. I mean, it just was. We were out a small town outside of Chicago in a real cemetery, which was insanely creepy at 4 a.m. Running through, screaming in a field. It was, yeah. I mean, it was just. There were two things about it. It really felt like I won a contest. I was like, I like this. This really just felt like the perfect part for me, and the collaboration was so pleasant and fun, and throwing myself into it was just a dream. But on the other side, it did feel like a little bit of a redemption arc because Gunnar Hansen and the crew of the original film had such a terrible time filming, famously, in the heat, and just kept going on. And so to be able to, play Gunnar and get a good experience in there, that was really special too.
Oh yeah, and yeah, just that. Let's go back to, like, let's say episode 4, or is it the 3, with the transition between back and forth with Ed Gein, and it's like brutal. And then he transitioned to the set, the set of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Mhm.
It's like, oh, it's a movie, so I feel like not as bad. Like watching it, like the experience, like dread.
Right.
And
Yeah. Well, yeah.
so, like, what was that like? Just recapturing that.
Yeah. I mean, the this season was really the brainchild of Ian Brennan, who was wrote and directed 2 of the episodes I was in. And he really had a specific message, which was very intentional, going between the horror commentary of the scary stuff, which is, like you said, it even the scenes that our editors sort of added this like kind of grainy effect to make it look like it was the old footage. And there is something about when it's Ed Gein doing the act, and Addison Rae was in those scenes, and the babysitter scenes with the bucket, and then it cuts to the film. I think it actually makes the movie even scarier. I think the fact that you're now being forced to remember that there were real people and real incidents behind these things, and it I think it's what made Texas Chainsaw so freaky to people. Was when it first came out, people thought it was real, especially the opening with John Larroquette's voice. It doesn't present itself as a fictional event. It makes it seem like it happened. And I think the longer you watch the movie and the longer you're familiar with the material, what makes it truly terrifying is the fact that it really could happen. It isn't Nightmare on Elm Street where there's, this crazy interdimensional ghost man who can jump into your dreams. It's not Jason Voorhees. This is a family. There is severe trauma and poverty and secrecy and isolation, and that kind of madness is something that can exist next door, and does exist next door in our country. That's really scary. So I think it's effective. I think,
Yeah.
Filming those scenes, my job again was just really trying to make sure that I was paying homage to Gunnar and keeping it at an 11. I think the character of Leatherface is not malicious, and I think there's a lot of fear. And I have a 2-year-old right now, and I think of Leatherface, obviously nonverbal, and there's some developmental challenges there for that character, but I think of him sort of as a large toddler, where there's fear of being punished and maybe being hurt, and there's the real primal thing of, well, I also need to provide for my family. And that's what made the scene in the trailer in episode 4 where Toby Hooper, and played by Will Brill, talks about the masks and the compartmentalization of the personalities, to me really connected Leatherface in a way that I had never really considered, which was, there isn't a mother figure there in the famous dining room scene with Grandpa. There's not really the only female there. The only female presence is the victim who's being captured. It's all men. And so I think the idea that Leatherface is trying to fill the role of not just his own needs of like a maternal figure, but providing for the family. He cooks. He goes out and he hunts. He tries to lure people in. So I know it seems strange, but I was really focused on trying to demonstrate the family dynamic there as best I could.
Yeah, I don't think it's strange at all, especially when there's that because the show talks about the different layers. So it's kind of like you trying to channel that as an actor. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, no, I mean, at the end of the day, Leatherface screams and runs with the chainsaw. I just did my best to ground it as Gunnar did in the reality. And he actually, in his book that he wrote before he passed, Chainsaw Confidential, he talks about his research where he was actually studying some kids who were severely nonverbal, and adults who were living with some severe, at the time, I don't think they had the language for it, but some spectrum related disorders, and as an actor who I'm autistic myself, it was really interesting to be able to try to, again, you just try to inform those things to make them organic for you. And it's not necessarily something anyone would ever know, but, Leatherface's sounds. Okay. In the film, the original movie, before he comes out and he starts doing that sort of shriek, he's in the background making chicken sounds and pig sounds and cow sounds. Um, he grew up on a farm. Those were his friends, and that's how he learned to communicate. And so I think there's something about it that, as an actor, all these little things you can use to kind of inform your own decisions. And so I really tried to connect to that primal, the primal side, and the fear, that Leatherface experiences. And I've joked that Texas Chainsaw Massacre is sort of Home Alone from Leatherface's experience, which is like they're about to sit down to a family dinner and all these teenagers start showing up and breaking into the property. So, so from his perspective, he's just protecting his family.
Yeah, yeah. And I do like the just how the show just goes back and forth. Let's say with Leatherface with the chainsaw, and then going to Charlie with the chainsaw. And so, what was
Incredible.
that? I don't know if you knew beforehand reading the script, like, oh, this is how we're gonna do this, or
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. So they did tell us there was some intent. I mean, there was a ton of intention, but as actors, we don't always get the scripts knowing like where the editing points are going to be. But because these were specific match points, I was aware. And either Charlie would preview what I did on the day before, or I would look at, get an idea of what he did. And so I think the show makes a really direct connection between Ed and Leatherface. And I think it represents some longing for maternal structure. Obviously, his relationship with his mother. I think it's also Leatherface is sort of the most palpable example of the trauma. But yeah, I mean, I also just feel like as an actor, particularly, like I'm a huge fan of Charlie, and so Charlie's work and Charlie's process, and getting to talk to him on set about like where the character was living for him, and then obviously knowing that I'm the over the top version helps me know, like, in order for Charlie's cuts to work, I had to go as big as I could because Charlie's going to come in with the grounded version. And I think the fact that those scenes play, it just speaks again to Ian and Max, our directors, and Charlie's performance. And so, especially that last moment in the cemetery where the characters, episode 8, The Godfather, and it's really tying together the legacy that Ed's story inspired, um, uh, you know, of these pop culture figures. And the last one before he steps out of the shadows is Leatherface. So it feels, I feel very fortunate for that character to have that direct connection, because I think it's also a worthy spotlight for these two characters.
and also cool for you as an actor. It's like, hey, I get to be in that last shot there.
Super cool, and I will tell you, it was not something that I knew going into it. So um, as the role evolved and the script started coming in, I really, you don't have any idea of how um, integral your part is going to be, especially something like this that could have been just a little nod, really became a through line for a few episodes. And it was a dream. It was an amazing experience. It's a powerful project. It is a haunting project. I think, not just for Charlie, and the incredible process he went through, but I think for the fans and the audiences, this is going to be a show that is going to stick with you. It is not your typical true crime fare. And I think I enjoyed Dahmer. I watched and enjoyed Menendez. This is a very they're a very different show. They're in the style, they're in the realm. It's part of, you know, the next installation. But I think Ian really delivers a message, which is, you know, Tom Hollander's Hitchcock says it. They're afraid of the monster, which is us. And so I think the piece turns it all back on the audience, in a thought provoking way, not a critical way. And I never, you know, you never know what type of project you're going to be a part of, and to know that you're a part of something that is intentionally evoking intense emotion and thought about pop culture and true crime and these things that we just sort of, you know, they become a staple of our entertainment. And should they be entertaining? And as a fan of scary movies and slasher films, I can't answer that. I can just tell you that, like, it was always in my DNA. And one other thing I would say, John, is like the thing I was sort of floored by has been the fan response. So like I'm at Brock Talks on Instagram. My profile's open. People can find me. They can DM me. And the Texas Chainsaw fans have, and they have been giving me specific, you know, feedback on the performance and things they noticed. And that I've always loved our horror community because it is, you know, filled with people who at some point in their lives may have felt othered and put in a position where they're the outsider. So it's just an incredible broad range of people who have different interests in this space, and to get to interact with them and talk to them, and you know, in some cases, like being fans of each other and being able to talk about the work that we all do together. I just feel really fortunate, and again, it's all falling around Halloween, so
Perfect.
it's kind of perfect. I know.
Yeah. And I guess like what okay, you mentioned meeting Charlie on the set, because when I'm watching the show, I'm imagining, like, since it's like different timelines, periods, like you may never get to act or see someone on the set that's in the past or the recent
Yeah.
past or the present. And so what was that like in terms of how they section things off with the timelines?
Well, I don't think there was any, like, they weren't keeping it separated, right?
Yeah.
It wasn't something like, yeah, you hear on some projects like another horror film I love, It Part One, where Bill was really Skarsgård was held back before he met the kids. It wasn't anything like that. Most of it had to do with the the filming of the series spanned a lot of time and states, and so yeah, Charlie and I met in the while we were getting makeup and hair done, and that was our opportunity to actually talk. So we didn't actually film together, but we were referencing the chainsaw dance and talking through a little bit of, like, you know, watching the film and just really brief interactions. Um, and just hearing a little bit about his process. I'm like, because at the end of the day, I'm taking a mask off and on, and it's physical. But the work he did to get into Ed's character, which was everything, it was philosophical, it was research based, it was, I mean, he did, and just getting actor to actor to, like, get let into his process a little bit, was really amazing. And again, you know, the utility I was filling there was sort of being aware about what he was doing so that I could make sure that what I was doing was either leading up to what was going to be cut to, um, and making sure that the moments were really framing Charlie's performance. And I think they do. I mean, I think, you know, I think a lot of people are talking about his performance, and I think it's uh, he can't get enough credit for the work he did. And so it was really amazing to be in scenes with him. It was great to chat with him. But, you know, I'll never forget just, like, watching Texas Chainsaw Massacre with, I think Erica, the hairstylist, was there. We were there in the trailer, and Charlie and I were just watching this on a phone and over each other's shoulders, and it was really cool. It's again one of those fly on the wall moments, like, oh yeah, like we should talk about this because I'm about to go film this and you're about to
Yeah.
do it, and so yeah, it's just cool. I mean, it was collaborative, and there, you know, he was top of the call sheet, but he did not. It was just all about, we were all there to achieve the goal. We were all working together. And that is something that I will, I've joked with my partner, like, I might have to retire from on camera. This was the literally hands down the best experience you could have asked for. The people I worked with, the people behind the scenes, And for our segments, the crew, everyone was really aware of what we were doing, but they were very, very um, enthusiastic and excited. You're remaking a piece of pop culture. And so I think anytime you get to go into that sandbox and like revisit something that you're probably a fan of as well, it just elevates the experience.
Oh yeah. And I think about this show is like, even though let's say people are watching it and it's still a show, you can still have some like liberties with like certain storylines.
Yeah,
So like me watching it, I'm like, all right, I wonder what's true and what's not, but also
yeah,
who's related to who in terms of characters or the like let's say Norman Bates, what was it, and Perkins, and then the son, Oz Perkins, who did the monkey movie. I'm like, holy crap, they're like related. So it's like for me, just putting that together, I'm like, wow, it's like my mind is blown on a lot of
yeah.
like, these details that I find out recently. Yeah.
It is amazing, like what an ecosystem our industry is, and it's a pond that ripples out. I mean, I I think it was out there that Oz Perkins actually wasn't in the contention or in the running to possibly direct the next Texas Chainsaw. And I will say, if not that film, he is one of my favorite directors working right now. The Monkey is an incredibly underrated horror movie. I'm not a part of it, but it's wonderful and I love it.
Yeah.
It's on Hulu right now, I think. But he's just making stuff right now that's really provocative. So Oz Perkins is on my list. Like I would dream to work with him on
Oh yeah.
anything.
Yeah.
And Krieger's off of Weapons. I know he's working on the new Resident Evil right now. That would be,
Ooh. I need to
would
watch
be
Weapons.
a dream. You do, yeah. In fact, everyone needs to watch Weapons. It is, you're gonna get sick of hearing about it, but it is so good. Amy Maddox, the performances in that, like we're getting Weapons gave us a new kind of horror slasher icon, and I think we you know Black Phone 2 is coming out this weekend. I think The Grabber's up there now, which is amazing. But
And the
what
Grabber
makes
is just on
these
Fortnite.
Oh yeah, see,
Yeah.
what Leatherface is back on Fortnite as well. So,
Yeah.
there's something about that too, like the bogeyman aspect of horror films. It's really something like when you can find these films like, wow, like out the gate, Gladys from Weapons has delivered a performance that has put her up there with Freddy Krueger or Leatherface, and what a feat that is. And yeah, that's a director I would love to work with because his films keep me guessing. I enjoy his work so much as an audience member because I don't know where it's going to go. So I can only imagine working with him would be a really fun, would have to be a fun experience.
Resident Evil. Yeah, because I'm hoping like I'm hoping it's gonna be good because I'm a fan of Resident Evil and like
Me
the
too.
movies
Yeah.
I get I'm like disappointed. I'm like
I think whenever you're adapting, and again back to the Texas Chainsaw stuff, whenever you're adapting source material, you're going to have to decide to be faithful to the source material, uh, be faithful to the fan expectations, or be faithful to the story that you're telling. And I think that's one of the things that they can't all exist. They
yeah.
can't all exist, but you have to kind of sort of decide your percentages. Um, and I mean, again, I am not involved in the Resident Evil movie. Zach, if there's a part, I will be covered in blood, man. I got a chainsaw, I'm ready to go. But it's yeah, I mean, what I love about this world is the sandbox and these characters can live on. And so, my moment as Leatherface for this project was deeply meaningful to me. It's always going to be out there. I, can't wait for the next opportunity to work in the horror space. And if the phone call ever came that I needed to throw the mask on and pick the chainsaw up, I would be there in a heartbeat. And I should specify someone else's heartbeat.
Yes, someone else. Yeah, and no, I feel like once like let's say the Resident Evil movie casting whatever they can cast you because I think Resident Evil there are certain ones that are I believe inspired by Texas Chainsaw. I'm not sure, maybe number 7 with the family where
I mean, again, the horror space always, uh, mirrors back. Art mirrors each other, and we take inspirations. You never know. You never
Yeah.
know. And I'm not sure. I'm not sure of any specifics of what story they're telling, but that is 100% a world I would love to play in. And I'm a big fan of four. Um, I'm a big gamer. I played a lot of video games growing up. Um, two was fun. Two was fun. I love. I mean, I'm just excited. I'm excited that also, horror is thriving in a way that these movies are coming out, and also, these directors are getting trusted with bigger and bigger budgets to do crazy things, and it just means the likelihood that there's an opportunity to work together is bigger, and also that these movies will, spawn more movies and keep going and going and going. So, it's all a win for us. It's all a
Oh
win for
yeah.
fans and also artists. So.
And yeah, and also like the video game world too, like we mentioned, Resident Evil, Fortnite, but also there was that Texas Chainsaw Massacre video game that came out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there was. Yeah, and I don't think I shared this actually. This was years ago, but I was in the running to voice Leatherface, and that
Oh.
that I know. But it was one of those things. It went to Lex Lang, who does a lovely job doing the vocalizations, and I think the mocap, I believe, or PCAP was Kane Hodder, um, of Jason fame, in Hatchet. So he played Leatherface for that physically. But one of my best friends, actually, speaking of Resident Evil, is Aaron LaPlante, and Aaron was the voice of the Duke, in Resident Evil. I think I want to say Village, but I could be wrong, and I'm sorry.
It
I
could be,
can't
yeah.
remember
I
all
think
the titles.
man, I actually played Village. I'm trying to figure out.
Yeah, the Duke, the guy, the merchant, and the big caravan, that sells the wares. I think that's the one he's in. But Aaron is actually in Texas Chainsaw the game. He voices the opening, doing the John Larroquette kind of thing, and he also gives the voice to Hans, one of the other sort of like original characters for the game. So it was really fun to be able to share this with him because, like, we're sort of like
the family.
we're in the yeah we're right, the Saws family. So we're in this together, and it is one of those things that, again, as fans of it, it's just so fun to keep these characters alive. And I don't know if you want to be date specific, but I'm actually I got invited tonight to go to Street Food Cinema, and we're going out to watch a screening of Texas Chainsaw, 9:30
Yeah.
at night,
There you go.
outdoors. And I'm just so excited to be out there with other people who love this movie. And I'm going to be, in the audience eating popcorn and waving my hands on, and it'll be great. That is what is so exciting about this opportunity, is it's bringing me into the realms where I get to talk horror more and more with people who also love it as much as I do. So.
Will you get to be like, let's say you're there and then like, hey, Brock's here. He was in Ed Gein. He plays.
I mean, you never know. I'm going purely to enjoy the movie as a fan,
Yeah.
but it's one of those things that, again, my whole performance is really truly trying to reignite the interest in Gunnar Hansen and what he did. And I have said this, but I think it's important to note that we're living in an era where AI is a consideration, and digital replicas are a consideration, and studio consolidation is happening at a rate that has never happened before. And these are just my own personal beliefs here. You have the libraries consolidating. And I think what's important is the moments that we can seize it back as artists and take ownership back and be like, yes, the film is owned by, the rights are held by this studio or XYZ. The original director was Toby Hooper. The original Leatherface was Gunnar Hansen. Mention them, celebrate them, replicate them, and not digitally, replicate their bravery, replicate the guts that they had to do what they did, and make new stuff. So that's sort of what I'm personally taking from this experience, which is like, it is my opportunity to tie a role I played back to the original actor, and kind of just say, like, that's the power of the craft. The power of what we're doing is this performance can live on 50 plus years later and still scare people. And that isn't a fluke. That is coming from artists and collaborators with a voice and a vision and a message. And I think Monster is one of those projects as well. I think people are going to be talking to me about this project for a long
Oh
time,
yeah.
and I don't think I will ever get tired talking about it.
You'd be like a very, very old man at the horror conventions.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I remember. Do you remember Netflix? Now it's HBO NetMount. Yeah, and now they beam it in your brain. It's all coming. It's all happening.
And then last question I want to ask you before we wrap it
Yeah.
up. Anything you want to like promote, just upcoming projects or anything like that of that nature?
Yeah. Sorry, I want to pull up. I have talking points on
Oh,
one
yeah, that's
project
fine.
that I
Talking
was
about
just.
bring up the PowerPoints. Yeah. It's
I
like,
know. Wait. Well, this
I got-
happened yesterday. I was like, oh no. So, I can mention. There are some opportunities to work on horror stuff coming out, and then I'm already getting booked for some shoots and some fun stuff. I have a film that I'm about to start working on called Stegosaurus, that was executive produced by Rebecca McHenry, directed by Sam Rocco, and produced by my buddy, one of my best friends, Curtis Waugh. And it's independent, psychological. It really does weirdly kind of have a little bit of the Silence of the Lambs kind of thing. And I don't want to go too much into detail because I want people to see this movie. But I have a little featured part. I feel thrilled to be in it. But the overall story is about a dinosaur obsessed elementary school teacher who goes on a murder spree in LA.
Oh.
So it's
Okay.
Little Red Dragon, little of that. It's gonna be really really sick and twisted, and I'm excited to be a part of it.
And the killer's gonna be dressed like a Stegosaurus.
I don't know. You're gonna have to watch it.
Watch it to find out.
So yeah, and it's an incredible cast. I'm really excited to be a part of it, and feel really fortunate to keep, like I said, keep the scary movie stuff happening. And so, and I also one of the other projects that I did this year that I really am super proud of. I got to work with Dan Trachtenberg and the team at 20th Century doing Predator, Killer, or Killers, and Predator Badlands is about to be in theaters. I'm not involved with that, but I know a lot of people that are, and it looks amazing. I'm very excited for it. And so if you're a sci-fi horror fan, you can actually check out Predator, Killer, or Killers on Hulu like right now. And it's a super fun anthology storytelling, ties the franchise together in a way you will not see coming.
And Predators versus Samurai, right? And Vikings.
It's great. Yeah, no, and you get the thing that people wanted, which is, hey, after Predator 2, where I think Danny Glover gets the pistol from the weird buccaneer or the pirate, it was like, wait, we could get time traveling predators. You get time traveling predators. It sort of takes where Prey left off and runs with it, and tells a bunch of really unique stories. I'm in the opening segment, the first installation of the story. But again, incredible experience, and the team that put that together, it was a huge hit this summer. And I would just, tell people, if you're interested in seeing more scary stuff, especially because I love horror and animation, it's a great use of the medium. So.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, that and Brock, it's a pleasure chatting with you, and well, hopefully I get to see you in the future, one of the events. So yeah.
Yeah, mostly, probably in your nightmares. Ooh, I'm just kidding, man. Thank you so much for your time. This was great.
Yeah, take care.